There is a moment usually somewhere around hour 31 when the hunger stops. Not fades, stops. 1 minute you're white-knuckling through cravings, your stomach growling like it has something to say. And then, without warning, the noise goes quiet, your body shifts gears, your mind sharpens. And you realize something that nobody warned you about before you start. The human body, when deprived of food long enough, does not collapse. It transforms. Millions of people have deliberately gone without food for 7 full days. Some do it for religious reasons, some for medical ones, some increasingly because modern science has revealed that what happens inside your body during an extended fast is nothing short of astonishing. Nobel Prizes have been won over it. Stanford researchers have lost sleep studying it. Ancient cultures practiced it for thousands of years, not as punishment, but as medicine. So what actually happens? Not in vague terms, not in motivational platitudes, but biologically, hour by hour, day by day, when a human being stops eating for an entire week. The answer will change how you think about hunger, willpower, the human body, and what it means to truly understand what you are made of. Before the first day even begins, your body is already preparing for a war it does not know is coming. Right now, whether you last ate 2 hours ago or 4, your body is running on a simple fuel economy. You eat carbohydrates. Your gut breaks them into glucose. Your pancreas releases insulin to escort that glucose into your cells. Your brain burns it. Your muscles burn it. Your organs burn it. It is clean, efficient, and completely dependent on you picking up a fork every few hours. This is the system modern life was built around. 3 meals a day, regular snacking, a constant drip of glucose into the bloodstream. Your body has forgotten, or rather, has been trained to forget that it was never designed to work this way. For 99% of human history, food was not guaranteed. It had to be hunted, gathered, grown, or traded for. There were days, sometimes many days, where nothing came in, and yet the species survived, thrived even, built civilizations, crossed continents on foot. The mechanism that made all of that possible is still inside you. Every single cell of your body carries the blueprint for surviving without food. And the moment you stop eating, that blueprint begins to activate slowly at first, then with gathering intensity, unlocking biological processes so sophisticated that scientists are still mapping their full implications. This is what happens when you fast for 7 days. The first 12 hours are deceptively quiet. You feel normal, maybe a little hungry, nothing you haven't handled before. Your body is drawing down its glucose reserves, glycogen stored in your liver and muscles. This is your immediate energy backup, the equivalent of a generator kicking in when the main power goes out. The average person carries roughly 400 to 500 grams of glycogen. Depending on your activity level, it lasts anywhere from 12 to 24 hours. Insulin levels are already beginning to fall. This is important not just as a data point, but as a biological signal that will cascade across nearly every system in your body over the next 7 days. Insulin is not just a blood sugar regulator. It is in many ways the master switch between storage mode and burning mode. When insulin is high, your body hoards energy. When insulin falls, the doors to your fat stores begin to open. By hour 16, the glycogen reserves are thinning. Your body begins releasing fatty acids from your fat tissue into your bloodstream. These fatty acids travel to your liver, which begins converting them into molecules called ketone bodies. It's a slow process at first, a trickle, not a flood, but the machinery is warming up. Then comes the 24-hour mark, and this is where things start to get genuinely interesting. Hunger peaks hard. If you have ever done an intermittent fast and felt that gnawing, almost desperate pull around dinner time on the first day, you know what this feels like. Ghrelin, your hunger hormone, is spiking. Your stomach is contracting, sending signals to your brain that you would very much like a meal right now. Your mood may drop. Your patience thins. Your thoughts drift toward food with embarrassing regularity. But here is what most people do not know about this moment. Your brain is simultaneously producing more norepinephrine, a neurotransmitter associated with alertness and focus. Evolutionary biology explains why. A hungry animal that becomes lethargic and foggy cannot find food. Natural selection ruthlessly weeded out that design. What survived instead was a brain that sharpens under food scarcity, that becomes more alert, more creative, more driven precisely when the body needs fuel most. The grogginess people associate with fasting is largely dehydration and electrolyte imbalance. Not the fast itself. Drink enough water. Take in enough sodium, potassium, and magnesium. And many people find, to their surprise, that the end of day 1 brings not exhaustion, but a strange, crisp wakefulness. Your body has officially crossed a metabolic line that evolution designed into you 2 million years ago. And you have barely begun. The second day is where the psychology starts to bend. You wake up expecting hunger. The craving that defined the end of day 1 should, by all logic, have intensified overnight. Instead, something unexpected happens. The hunger is still there, but it has changed character. It is quieter. As if your body, having sent its loudest signals and received no response, has decided to adapt rather than demand. This is not resignation. It is biology executing a remarkably elegant plan. Your liver has been working through the night. The trickle of ketone production has become a steady stream. Ketone bodies, primarily beta-hydroxybutyrate, acetoacetate, and acetone, are beginning to accumulate in your blood. Your brain, which normally runs almost exclusively on glucose, is starting to learn a new fuel. And the transition changes everything about how your mind feels. Ketones cross the blood-brain barrier directly. They do not need insulin to enter your neurons. They burn more cleanly than glucose, producing less oxidative waste. They have been shown in multiple studies to reduce neuroinflammation and enhance mitochondrial efficiency in brain cells. In practical terms, people in ketosis frequently report a mental clarity that feels qualitatively different from their normal state, not just alert, but genuinely clear. Thoughts come easily. The mental static that most of us live with every day, the background anxiety, the scattered attention, the pull of distraction, begins to quiet. Your body is also doing something more subtle and perhaps more profound at the hormonal level. Human growth hormone, which plays a critical role in preserving lean muscle mass, begins to surge. Studies have shown growth hormone levels can increase by as much as 300 to 500% during a multi-day fast. This is your body's insurance policy against muscle loss, an ancient mechanism that kept early humans strong enough to hunt even during extended periods without food. Cortisol, your stress hormone, rises modestly. This is why some people feel edgy or emotionally raw during day 2. Your body's stress axis is activated, not in a dangerous way, but in a signal-amplifying way. Sensations feel slightly more intense. Emotions sit closer to the surface. Some people find this uncomfortable. Others find it clarifying, as if the emotional noise of regular daily life has been stripped back to reveal something more essential underneath. By the end of day 2, you have likely not yet entered full ketosis. That shift is still completing, but you are close. Your body is building the biochemical infrastructure for a metabolic state that has not been activated since the last time you went a very long time without food, which, for most people in the modern world, may never have happened at all. What is about to switch on has been waiting inside you your entire life. 48 hours in, ketosis is now fully established. Your blood ketone levels have crossed the threshold. Your brain is no longer waiting for glucose that isn't coming. It has retooled itself to run on fat-derived fuel, and it is running well. But this is also the moment when something else activates. Something that, when scientists finally understood it fully, earned a Nobel Prize. It is called autophagy. The word comes from the Greek for self-eating. And while that sounds alarming, what it actually describes is one of the most sophisticated maintenance systems in the known biological world. Here is what is happening inside every cell in your body right now. Specialized proteins are moving through the cell, flagging damaged components. Misfolded proteins that have accumulated over time, malfunctioning mitochondria that are no longer producing energy efficiently, cellular debris that has built up like sediment at the bottom of a jar. Normally, your cells would continue running with this accumulating damage, growing slowly less efficient, contributing to inflammation, to aging, to disease. But when autophagy activates, triggered most powerfully by the combination of low insulin, low glucose, and low amino acid availability, the cell begins digesting its own waste. Autophagosomes, tiny membrane-bound structures, engulf the damaged material, deliver it to the lysosome, and the lysosome breaks it down into raw components. Amino acids, fatty acids, sugars. The cellular garbage becomes fuel. The broken parts become building blocks. This is why Yoshinori Ohsumi won the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine in 2016 for his work on this process. Autophagy is not just a curiosity. It is likely one of the primary reasons that organisms age at all when autophagy is insufficient, and one of the primary reasons they stay healthy when it is operating well. Impaired autophagy has been linked to Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, type 2 diabetes, cancer, and a range of age-related conditions. When you fast, you are not just burning fat. You are triggering a cellular deep clean that the human body evolved to conduct during periods of food scarcity. A deep clean that most people never activate because they never go long enough without eating to turn it on. This is the process that no juice cleanse, no supplement, no detox tea can replicate. It happens inside your cells, triggered by the specific biological conditions of extended fasting, and it is doing something that nothing you can buy will ever do. By hour 60, your body has been cleaning house for 12 hours. Every hour you remain in this state, the process continues. Old proteins disappear, cellular machinery is refreshed. The microscopic architecture of your body is being quietly, systematically renewed. Day 3 arrives, and something about the quality of the fast changes. The early turbulence is gone. The dramatic hunger swings, the mood shifts, the constant negotiation between willpower and craving, most of it has settled. What remains is something harder to name, a kind of stripped-down clarity, a quietness. Your body has fully committed to its alternative fuel economy. Metabolic rate has adjusted downwards slightly. Your resting heart rate may have dropped a few beats per minute. Your core body temperature may be fractionally lower. But these are not signs of weakness. They are signs of efficiency. Your system is conserving resources with extraordinary precision, directing energy exactly where it is needed and nowhere it is not. Meanwhile, something remarkable is happening in your bloodstream. Inflammation markers are beginning to fall. Studies on extended fasting have shown reductions in C-reactive protein, interleukin-6, and other biomarkers associated with systemic inflammation. This matters enormously because chronic low-grade inflammation is now understood to underlie an enormous range of modern diseases: cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, certain cancers, autoimmune conditions, and neurological disorders. Your immune system is also beginning a quiet renovation. White blood cell counts may dip modestly early and fast as old immune cells are cleared through autophagy. But the research, particularly work from Walter Longo's laboratory at the University of Southern California, suggests that this is followed by regeneration. The stem cells that give rise to new immune cells appear to receive a signal during prolonged fasting to become more active. The immune system, in a real sense, is being rebuilt. Your gut is resting in a way it almost never gets to. The ceaseless mechanical and chemical labor of digestion, the acids, the enzymes, the peristaltic contractions, the immune surveillance of the intestinal lining has paused. The gut microbiome has shifted, with some bacterial populations declining and others stabilizing. The intestinal lining, normally subjected to constant chemical stress, is being gently maintained rather than perpetually challenged. Day 3 is also the day that many serious fasters describe a psychological turning point. The question stops being, "Can I do this?" and starts being, "What is this actually doing to me?" Not in an anxious way, but in a genuinely curious one. The relationship with food changes. The compulsive pull that most people feel toward eating, the habitual reaching for a snack, the anxiety when a meal is delayed, the way food is used to manage emotion and boredom, and social discomfort becomes visible in a new way. Distance creates perspective. You begin to see the appetite not as a need, but as a signal. And signals, unlike needs, can be observed without being immediately obeyed. Day 4, and energy is behaving strangely. Logic says you should be exhausted. You have not eaten solid food in 96 hours. And yet many people, particularly those who have crossed the metabolic threshold cleanly, report a surge, a physical lightness, a sense of capability that feels almost out of place. The explanation lies in what fat is and how much of it you carry. Even a lean adult carries enormous caloric reserves in their fat tissue, typically 50,000 to 100,000 calories or more. This is not a design flaw. It is the human body's energy archive, a reserve built across millions of years of evolution for exactly this situation. When ketosis is fully established and running cleanly, you are drawing on that archive with remarkable efficiency. The mitochondria in your cells, the organelles responsible for converting fuel into usable energy, have adapted to fat oxidation. They have, in the language of biochemistry, upregulated the enzymes needed to burn fatty acids. The result is not just adequate energy. For many people, it is better than baseline energy, steadier, less subject to the crashes and peaks that accompany glucose metabolism. No blood sugar spikes, no insulin surges, just a calm, even burn from your body's largest energy reserve. This is what people in the biohacking community sometimes call metabolic flexibility, the ability of the body to shift seamlessly between fuel sources. Most people in the modern world have lost it. Years of constant eating, constant insulin stimulation, constant glucose availability have made the fat-burning machinery rusty from disuse. Extended fasting forces it back online, and when it comes back online fully, the feeling is distinctive. Your brain is running largely on ketones now. And ketones, in addition to their energetic role, are doing something else. They are acting as signaling molecules, influencing gene expression across the body. Research has shown that beta-hydroxybutyrate, the primary ketone in circulation, inhibits certain enzymes that normally suppress your body's stress resistance genes. In other words, fasting is not just changing your metabolism. It is changing which of your genes are active. Some of those genes are directly involved in cellular protection. Some are involved in longevity pathways, the same pathways activated by caloric restriction, which has been shown to extend lifespan in every animal model studied. The mechanisms are complex and still being mapped, but the direction of the evidence is consistent. Fasting activates your body's most ancient survival programming, and that programming was written to keep you alive and functional under conditions of scarcity. Day 4 is the day that scarcity begins to feel less like deprivation and more like information. By day 5, the mental dimension of fasting has become impossible to ignore. Something has shifted in how your mind is processing the world. Focus arrives more easily. The ordinary distractions that scatter attention, the background urge to check your phone, the wandering thoughts, the half attention you bring to most moments have receded. There is a quality of presence that many fasters describe, somewhat awkwardly, as being more here. The science has several explanations for this. Brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF, has been rising steadily throughout your fast. BDNF is sometimes described as fertilizer for the brain, a protein that supports the growth, maintenance, and survival of neurons, and that facilitates the formation of new synaptic connections. Low BDNF is associated with depression, cognitive decline, and reduced learning capacity. High BDNF is associated with improved memory, faster learning, and greater cognitive resilience. Exercise is the best-known way to raise BDNF. Fasting is the second best. Your dopamine system has also shifted. Without the constant low-level dopamine stimulation provided by eating, and particularly by the anticipation of eating, your reward circuitry has recalibrated. The same mechanism that makes a meal taste extraordinary when you are genuinely hungry, compared to merely peckish, has been operating for 5 days. Your sensitivity to pleasure and meaning has increased. Things that previously passed without notice begin to register. Many people who have completed multi-day fasts describe a heightened sense of gratitude for water, for warmth, for conversation, for the simple fact of being alive. This is not sentimentality, it is neurochemistry. When the reward system is recalibrated away from constant stimulation, it finds depth in things it previously skimmed over. There is also a component that is harder to fit into biochemical language. Something that monks, mystics, and contemplatives across every tradition have described across thousands of years of human history: a quieting of the interior noise, a quality of spaciousness in the mind. Whether this is purely neurological or points to something beyond the merely physical is a question each person who experiences it must answer for themselves. What is not in question is that at day 5, your body and your mind are operating in a mode that most people never experience. A mode that your biology has always been capable of, but that modern life, with its abundance and its constant stimulation, almost never allows. Day 6, and the body is writing its finest chapter. Autophagy is still running. Inflammation remains low. Fat oxidation is efficient. Immune regeneration is ongoing. And now in the deeper tissues, another process has quietly accelerated: stem cell activation. Research by Walter Longo's team at USC demonstrated something extraordinary: that prolonged fasting triggers a measurable increase in stem cell proliferation, particularly in the immune system and gut lining. The mechanism appears to involve the depletion of certain growth signaling pathways, which creates the biological equivalent of a reset signal. Old, worn cells are cleared, and the stem cell populations that replace them receive a stimulus to divide and differentiate. This is tissue renewal happening on its own terms. Your body, given the conditions it was evolutionarily designed to encounter periodically, initiates a low-level regeneration of some of its most important functional tissues. Your gut lining, a single cell layer separating your bloodstream from the contents of your intestine, perpetually exposed to chemical stress and immune challenge, has been resting and regenerating. The tight junctions between intestinal cells, which are responsible for preventing the passage of undigested food particles and pathogens into the bloodstream, may be strengthening. The quality of your gut barrier when you eventually eat again may be measurably better than when you started. Day 6 also brings with it a weight of significance that is hard to avoid. You have now gone longer without food than most people in the developed world ever will. You have passed through hunger, through adaptation, through clarity, through the strange peace of ketosis, and arrived at a place that most human beings will never visit. The body you are living in right now is different from the one you started with 6 days ago. Not in ways visible to the eye, but in ways visible to a blood test, a metabolic panel, a cellular biopsy. Lower inflammation, higher ketones, more efficient mitochondria, cleaner cells, a recalibrated immune system, genes that are expressing differently. You have, in the most literal sense, taken your body somewhere it had never been before. Day 7. The summit. There is no adequate single word for what the body has accomplished, but the closest might be optimized. Fat burning is operating at peak efficiency. Autophagy has now been running for 5 full days, and the cellular cleanup it has performed is cumulative with each passing hour. More damaged proteins have been digested, more malfunctioning organelles replaced, more waste converted to usable material. Inflammation is at its lowest point of the entire fast. Your immune system has shed its oldest, most worn cells and is in the process of building new ones from activated stem cells. Your brain, running almost entirely on ketones, is sharp and calm in equal measure. BDNF levels are elevated. The stress resistance genes activated by beta-hydroxybutyrate are still expressing. Your relationship with appetite has fundamentally changed. You are not suppressing hunger so much as you have, for the moment, transcended it. Many people who reach day 7 describe something that almost defies physiological explanation. Not just mental clarity, not just physical lightness, but a kind of emotional transparency. As if the constant background noise of craving, distraction, habitual consumption, and restless wanting has been silenced long enough that something deeper has become audible. A quality of attention that turns inward as naturally as it turns outward. A sense, reported by fasters across cultures and across centuries, of having gotten quiet enough to hear something that is normally drowned out by the sound of living. Ancient religious traditions, Christian, Muslim, Jewish, Buddhist, Hindu, indigenous incorporated multi-day fasting not as asceticism for its own sake, but as a technology for reaching altered states of consciousness and deepened awareness. They did not have the language of ketones and BDNF, but they were observing the same phenomenon. That the fasted human body and mind operate differently, and that the difference has value. Modern science is now providing the mechanisms for what they described. The heightened focus is real. The emotional clarity is real. The sense of renewal is real. And the question of whether any of it points to something beyond the biological is one that science, by definition, cannot answer, but that the experience, for many people, seems to raise. You have now spent 7 days learning what your body is actually capable of when the constant signal of food is removed. What you have discovered is this: more than you thought. Far more. But this is the moment that requires the most care of the entire 7 days. Because how you end a fast determines how much of what you have built you actually get to keep. Your digestive system has been essentially dormant for a week. Your pancreas has been producing minimal insulin. Your digestive enzymes are at low levels. The gut microbiome has shifted. The intestinal lining, while regenerated, is sensitized. If you eat a full meal right now, anything heavy, anything high in carbohydrates, anything dense, the consequences can be severe. When food floods a system that has been in this state, insulin spikes sharply. Phosphorus, potassium, and magnesium rush into cells as the body attempts to resume normal metabolic function. This rapid electrolyte shift can destabilize the electrical systems that govern heart function. In severe cases, it can be fatal. This is refeeding syndrome. It is not theoretical. It has killed people who broke extended fasts without understanding what they were doing. It is the reason that clinical facilities supervising therapeutic fasting break them with extreme care, small amounts of diluted juice, then broth, then soft fruits, then gradually more complex foods over multiple days. The rule is simple and non-negotiable. The longer the fast, the slower the return to eating. After 7 days, the refeed should take at least several days of its own. Start with small amounts of diluted juice or broth. Progress to soft fruits, watermelon, which is largely water, is ideal. Move to yogurt, then cooked vegetables, then soft proteins. Allow your digestive system to wake up at its own pace, in stages, not shocked back to function by a plate of pasta. The refeed is not the end of the transformation. It is the final stage of it, the moment when the cells that were cleaned and renewed during the fast receive new material to work with, when the regenerated immune cells encounter the microbial world again, when the gut lining, freshly restored, begins its ongoing work under better conditions than it has seen in a long time. Done correctly, the return to eating is as profound as the fast itself. It is the part where everything your body built during 7 days of deprivation meets the world again. The science of extended fasting is moving fast. Research from Harvard, Stanford, USC. In laboratories across Europe and Japan has established that prolonged fasting is not merely a religious practice or a weight loss technique, it is one of the most powerful biological interventions available to a human being without pharmaceutical intervention. The longevity implications are significant. The same genes activated by caloric restriction that extend lifespan in every animal model studied SIRT1, AMPC, FOXO are activated by fasting. The mTOR pathway, which drives cellular growth and aging when overactive, is suppressed. The IGF-1 pathway associated with cancer risk and accelerated aging at high levels falls during extended fasting. The immune system findings are among the most remarkable. Work from Longo's laboratory showed that 3-day fasting cycles in human patients undergoing chemotherapy triggered measurable regeneration of immune cells, reducing the immunosuppressive side effects of treatment. The body, in the absence of food, does not just maintain its immune system, it rebuilds it. The neurological implications are still being mapped, but the trajectory is consistent. BDNF elevation reduced neuroinflammation, improved insulin sensitivity in the brain, protection against amyloid accumulation. Every marker associated with cognitive resilience appears to move in the right direction during extended fasting. None of this means that fasting is appropriate for everyone. It is not. People with type 1 diabetes, with a history of eating disorders, with cardiac conditions, with pregnancy, with certain medications, with severe adrenal dysfunction for these people, extended fasting carries risks that outweigh its benefits, and medical supervision is not just recommended but mandatory. For the healthy adult who approaches it with knowledge, preparation, and respect, however, extended fasting represents something that the modern world rarely offers: an encounter with the deep design of the human body, a reminder that you were built not just for abundance but for scarcity, not just for comfort but for challenge, not just for constant feeding but for periodic renewal. The hunger you feared was the beginning of a transformation, and the transformation, as it turns out, was always inside you. 7 days without food ends not with weakness, but with knowledge. You have learned that your body can run on its own reserves for far longer than you imagined. That hunger is not an emergency, it is a signal. That the brain does not require a constant supply of glucose to function brilliantly. That cells, given the right conditions, will repair themselves. That the immune system can renew itself. That the genes that govern how fast you age can be turned in a different direction. You have also learned something less quantifiable but perhaps equally important. That the relationship most of us have with food in the modern world is not purely about nutrition. It is about comfort, about habit, emotion, about the way we use eating to fill gaps that food was never designed to fill. 7 days of silence on that front makes the noise visible in a way nothing else can. What you do with that visibility is yours to decide, but this much is certain. You went 7 days without eating and came out the other side not diminished, but clarified, not starved, but renewed, not weaker, but in ways that will take weeks to fully unfold, more capable of healing, more efficient at energy, more resilient to the ordinary damage of daily life. You gave your body the one thing modern life almost never gives it: a chance to remember what it already knows how to do.